चेतो दर्पणमार्जनं भवमहादावाग्निर्वापनं श्रेयः कैरवचन्द्रिका वितरणं विद्यावधूजीवनम् स्वाराज्य साम्राज्य विभूतिरेषा भवत्कृपा श्रीमहिमप्रसादात् प्राप्ता मया श्रीगुरवे महात्मने नमो नमस्तेस्तु पुनर्नमोस्तु नमो नमस्तेस्तु पुनर्नमोस्तु नमो नमस्तेस्तु पुनर्नमोस्तु। जय गुरु, जय गुरु, जय गुरु। So we were discussing this Upadesha Panchakam of Shankaracharya, where the disciples, they felt confused by all that Shankaracharya had written regarding the Absolute Brahman, regarding the devotional hymns that he was writing, and they wanted to get a summary advice from their master that what they should do. They have learned many things, read the Shastras, and sitting at the feet of the Guru they have learned, but they still did not know exactly what they should pursue so that they can realize the absolute eternal Brahman. So the other day we did 1 or 2 slokas, 5 slokas Shankaracharya wrote and composed and gave them as his advice. When we go through this, we will find that the master has only led them to a wholesomeness and one-pointedness. When we learn many things, we are not able to focus, we are not able to understand what are the steps, actual steps that we should follow. So, he has given step by step what they should do. So in the first sloka he said, Vedo nityam adhiyatam taduditam karmasvanushthiyatam tene shasya vidhiyatam apachiti kamye matistyajyatam papaugha paridhuyatam bhavasukhe दोषोऽनुसन्धीयताम् आत्मेच्छा व्यवसीयताम् निजगृहात् तूर्णम् विनिर्गम्यताम्. First instruction is follow the Vedas, and that is everybody should read the Vedas regularly. As I told you, these instructions were given to the renunciate disciples of Sri Shankaracharya. And you may wonder how they are relevant to you in this modern age. But the fact is that you might not have taken up a wholesome reading of the Shastras, renouncing everything, but definitely you can go through some of the Vedic verses, the hymns, which are there in the Vedas and the Upanishads. So every day we must read them. Why? Because we do not get the opportunity to hear them by ourselves. We are always in the hectic world doing lot of activity, and all that we get to hear is worldly things, worldly affairs, which distracts our mind, scatters our mind, and does not allow our mind to focus on our real identity. So, if we read these slokas, if we read these verses, what will happen? We will be able to understand what should be our real goal in this life. The real goal in this life is to be happy and peaceful and enjoy a bliss which is constantly there, incessantly there. And how we can enjoy that, how we can realize that, how we can have that, it says that there is this soul which you can realize, and the individual soul is nothing but Brahman. You have to understand that mistakenly you are identifying yourself with your body, mind and intelligence. But if you are able to realize the soul which is changeless, which is one without a second, which is all-pervading, then you will be able to get that supreme felicity in life. So when we read these verses, I read some of the verses that day, and today what is coming to my mind, I think many of you know, Akashavalle paviduragoham Adityavadbhasya vilakshanoham Aharyavan nityavinishchaloham Ambodhivat paravivajjitoham. It says, I'm like the Akasha, I'm like the sky, I'm untainted and I do not get tainted by anything. Let anything happen around me, I will not be affected. As the sky never gets affected. If we draw a line in the sky, nothing happens. The sky remains the sky. Similarly, in our true identity, we are unaffected like the sky, untainted like the sky. So, when there is some problem, when there is some situation where the mind becomes disturbed, agitated, we must remember that we are actually, in essence, we are like the sky, unaffected and limitless. Adityavad bhasya vilakshanoham. And we are, in a sense, like the sun, ever brilliant. This does not happen. Many times we become depressed, we start grumbling, we start feeling self-pity and so many other things. But when the mind becomes dark, we should remember this, that we are like the sun, brilliant to the core. It is always brilliant and it gives illumination to everything. Adityavad, Aditya means sun, Adityavad bhasya vilakshanoham. Aharyavan nitya vinishchaloham. And like a mountain, I am immovable. Whenever something happens to us, even a small thing like somebody has not behaved well or said a harsh word or a rude word, we get moved. But we are, in a sense, immovable. Aharyavan, like the mountain, as the mountains are immovable, we are also like that. Ambodhivat paravivajjitoham. And like the ocean, we are limitless and infinite. This is our real identity. So whenever we are in distress, whenever we feel that we are weak, we must remember our real identity. So this is the benefit of remaining in touch with the Vedas. So Shankaracharya says right in the beginning that read always the Vedas and the Upanishads. Tadudidam karma svanushthiyatam. Now, our life is full of activity. And what kind of action we should do? We should do such action which will bring about auspiciousness and purity to our mind and body. So the Veda gives injunctions and it says there are various kinds of karma. Some are nitya karma, naimittika karma, kamya karma, prayaschitta karma, like that many are there. What is nitya karma? Nitya karma is what is done daily. some of the acts which are done daily. Like, say, those who have Upanayam, they have sacred thread, they do this Sandhya Vandanam 3 times a day. Then Bhagavat Aradhanam, that is worshipping the God. Many of us may be having a puja shrine. We get up in the morning, light a lamp after taking bath, we chant some stotras, or we sit contemplating on the Lord or on Brahman. So these are the Nitya Karmas that the Vedas prescribe. This should be done. Agnihotra. Then there are occasional obligatory duties. That is called Naimittika. Those are not done every day, but on certain situations. Like Garbhadhana. Then slowly, there are 16 kind of samskaras, which I am not going to name. Say like, with a fetus is born in the womb of the mother, so some kind of ritual is done. Then slowly the fetus grows and delivery takes place, then Jata Karma. There will be some, ceremony because the child is born. Then slowly Vidyarambham will be done. The child has to learn, so there will be Vidyarambham. And it goes on, Upaneyanam will be done. So those are not daily work, not daily obligatory duties, but when the situation comes, then we must do them. And there are Pitrikarmas, like Shraddhas. One Shraddha is that when his body falls, then we do Shraddha. Another is yearly we do Shraddha. Then there are some Shraddha which is related to the Grahana and all that, eclipses. So all these are occasional obligatory duties which are called Naimittika Karma. And there are Kamya Karma, activity which is done only for one's own interest. And say some yajna or some vows for going to heaven, or Putrakamishti yajna, those who do not have children, they can do this yajna to get a child. So these are only for self-interest. It is not meant for the masses. So these are the Taduditam karma swanushtiyatam means whatever the Vedas are saying, those kind of karma which will bring purity and auspiciousness to you, do that. Tene shasya vidhiyatam apachitihi. So, and in doing so, worship God. What is worshipping God? By such karma, we are saying that we must get purity and auspiciousness. So we must see that our worship is not just a ritual. It is just not a mechanical piece of work. The worship should be from the heart. So whenever we do worship, it is the worshipper who benefits and not the worshipped. That is, God is not going to get benefited. Say we have got so many deities. Whichever deity we propitiate and worship, the deity is not benefiting at all. The deity doesn't understand also anything. Who benefits? The one who is doing the worship. So let's stop looking some people. In this, the worship should be done in such a manner that slowly the devotion becomes pure and pure and pure. What is meant by pure devotion? Devotion without any motive. When we do not ask anything from God when we worship Him. Mostly we worship because we want so many things. We want welfare of the family. We want the daughter should be married, or the son should get a job, or the business should do well. The case should be won. I must buy a house. So always we are worshipping with a motive. But devotion becomes pure when there is no motive in the mind. We worship because we cannot but worship. We love God. We start relying on God. We feel that He has the supreme place in our lives. As Bhagavatam says, Priyate amalaya bhaktya hariranyad vidambanam. That is, Sri Hari, or God, the Supreme Being, He becomes pleased with the devotee with only amala bhakti. That is pure devotion. And anyad vidambanam. Any other thing is only ostentation. Any other thing means what? Maybe we worship, we bring so many items. When somebody has money, they will be offering very beautiful things, costly items, costly garland, costly flowers, costly fruits, and many other items they will offer. But all those God feels is ostentation. He doesn't need anything. That is why God has said in Bhagavad Gita, Patram pushpam phalam toyam yome bhaktya prayachati. Anything, by anything you can please me, worship me. Either it is a small leaf, or it is a flower, or just water and maybe a fruit. Maybe nothing like this. Even these are not available. Will we not worship even then? Even if you give patram pushpam phalam toyam, it may not have bhakti in it. So he says, yo me bhaktya prayachati. It has to be even this fruit, flower, and leaf and water. All these things also must have bhakti along with it. What kind of bhakti? Where bhakti does not need any return. It does not expect any return. So, he says that do the Vaidika karmas and by that worship God, because that is a Nitya karma also. But through that, you must become pure and more devotional. More and more reliance on God should come. And you should be one pointed towards God. What is this reliance? When we understand that nobody can protect us except the Supreme Lord. We feel our money will protect us. We feel if we have a lot of people around us, they will protect us. If we are having disease, if we have money, we will go to a very good hospital under very good doctors. But nothing can protect us. The protector is He, and we are worshipping Him. So, it says, Tene shasya apachitihi vidhiyatam. Don't forget that worship has to be done to God. Your reliance should increase, and you should start feeling the presence of God in your heart. Then, papa kamye matistyajyatam. So, these are the anushtana that you should do. Even worship is an anushtana. Say we take bath, we light a lamp, we clean the place of worship, we collect some flowers, we clean the flowers, we may bring some fruits to offer, we clean the fruit, then we clean the idols, we light an incense stick so that there is a very beautiful atmosphere, then we sit on an asana and chant some stotras. In doing so, what actually we are doing? Our devotion, our worship will be only real when our mind becomes slowly one-pointed and focused on God and not on the world. But very often what happens is that when we worship, we'll do every day these items, but our mind will be somewhere else. We'll start thinking of something else. Or we'll start thinking, when will the puja be over and I'll be able to get up and I have to go to office or this and that, whatever. So it says, Kamye matistyajyatam. Whatever is desireful, you remove those desires from the mind. Do not get into such kind of activities. That is, whatever activity is desireful. Desireful means which brings about agitation to the mind. You remove those things from your life. What are those activities? You may say that we are always active. Many things we have to do with desire. Say, we have to go to the market to buy things. Even that is a desire. But you have to see whether you are becoming possessive about it, whether you are becoming bound with it, whether your mind is getting bogged down with it, or you are doing as a piece of item in your life which is needed to be done. So there is a very subtle difference between need and desire. You have to understand that. So if we go like this, then next comes Papaugha paridhuyatam bhavasukhe dosho nusandhiyatam. Papaugha paridhuyatam. What is our interest? What is the master telling? Don't forget, who is telling whom? Shankaracharya, the Guru, is telling his Shishyas. He is saying, all these activities you have to do, but through that you must get purity and auspiciousness. So, Papaugha paridhuyatam. Be very watchful wherever your mind is become impure. Say, I am doing puja and I start having an ego that I know the slokas very well. I can chant Vishnu Sahasranama by heart without seeing the book. I can chant the Bhagavad Gita, so many chapters, very nicely. Or I know the methods of doing puja very well. People come to me to ask. These are ego. So from the mind, those kinds of ego should be removed. Even there is ego. Many times we have gone to people's houses, very beautiful puja room. So many idols and pictures that how they clean it, it is a question. But they are very happy, very proud. Marble puja room, marble idols and costly items. So they are very happy, very proud that my puja room is very well decorated. Those are all ego. Those are not purity. Those are ostentations. So, Papaugha paridhuyatam. So be constantly watchful. What are the undesirable traits in the mind which makes the mind impure? And being watchful, constantly remove the undesirable traits, bringing the good traits. Whatever good traits are already there, strengthen them. This should be the task and pursuit of any seeker who wants to progress in spiritual life and realize. So, never be complacent. What is complacency is the greatest enemy. We become complacent, we feel that, oh, I am very pure, I am not thinking badly about others, I don't find out fault, I am doing things very much all in a very good manner, people are actually happy with me. But that is a complacency. We should not get stuck there. We should try to find out, even under that, subtly, is there anything which is making me egoistic, making me jealous, making me sometimes lethargic, making me find fault with others. I'll tell you a story. Even in Shankaracharya's, within the Shankaracharya's disciples. Yesterday I told you about Shankaracharya, his life, and the disciples, the 4 disciples, Padmapadacharya was known for his devotion to the Guru. And Shankaracharya taught him all the Vedas and the scriptures, and he was the first disciple. Now, when all the 4 prominent disciples had already come, Padmapadacharya, Hastamalaka, Sureshwaracharya, and Totakacharya, Shankaracharya one day called Sureshwaracharya and said, you write a commentary on the bhashya that I have written from Brahma Sutra. Brahma Sutra was composed by Vedavyasa, and Shankaracharya got instruction from his Guru and Vedavyasa to write a commentary on Brahma Sutra, which is known as Brahma Sutra Bhashya. Shankaracharya now tells Sureshwaracharya to write a further commentary on that commentary. Now, Sureshwaracharya was very humbled because the Guru has chosen him to write it. There was lot of commotion and jealousy within the other disciples. And they all spoke together, and Padmapadacharya, he was very jealous because he was the first disciple. He has learned when under Shankaracharya when he was the only student. So he came and told, "Oh Master, what you have done is wrong. You should not ask Padmapadacharya to write this bhashya. It is called, a commentary on a bhashya is called Vartika. So he should not write the Vartika. If he writes a Vartika, People will not take to it because he was a married person and he has lived a married life. Also, he was a ritualistic. You remember that Mandana Mishra who became Sureshwaracharya. So he has been doing rituals all along. How can he write now on this eternal Brahman? So people will not take to this book, composition. Shankaracharya said that, but I feel he is the right person to write. Then Padmapadacharya said, no. If at all it has to be written, O Lord, you yourself please write it, told Shankaracharya. Shankaracharya said, no, I will not write it. He is the person who can write. But knowing that the other Shishyas were not in agreement with him, he called Sureshwaracharya and said, see, people are not happy that I have asked you to compose this. So you stop this work. Instead, you write something by which everybody will be knowing the depth of your knowledge. Knowledge of what? Knowledge of the Advaya Brahman. So he wrote Naishkarma Siddhi. Sureshwaracharya wrote the book called Naishkarma Siddhi. That is, Atma is Naishkarma. That is, there is no activity. It is not a karta. It is not a doer. It is not an enjoyer. It does nothing. But on that substratum of nothing, no activity, dances this whole world. So much of activity goes on. But in essence, there is non-activity in our core. That is why we are nischala. Aharyavan nitya vinischaloham. We are immovable in our core. But outside so much activity goes on. But if we dig ourselves into ourselves, we'll find that there is no movement there. So Sureshwaracharya wrote Naishkarma Siddhi. Even at that state where all the disciples of Shankaracharya, they were all realized and very soon they were to be sent as messengers of Brahmavidya, they had jealousy with the other disciple. Padmapadacharya could not stand that the Guru has asked Sureshwaracharya to write this Vartika. And you know what was the result? The Vartika never came up. Because neither Sureshwaracharya wrote, nor Shankaracharya wrote. Because Shankaracharya said that I am not the person to write it. Now, there is a story along with that, further story. Padmapadacharya, after the Naishkarma Siddhi came up, became very, very repentant. When it was read out and everybody understood what knowledge Sureshwaracharya has imbibed, he became very, very repentant that he did such a work, because Vartika was not written also. So he came and fell at the feet of the Guru and said, I will go. I want to leave because I have done a great sin. There are very beautiful shlokas, there in this Shankara Digvijaya, where Shankaracharya tells him why the Shishya should not go away. But Padmapadacharya did not listen. He went off. He first went to, after a long time, he had joined Shankaracharya at a very young age. After so many years, he went to his house. And there, everybody welcomed him. He had become quite old at that time. Everybody welcomed, and so he spent some time there. His maternal uncle he was a ritualist. So that maternal uncle used to talk to him, understand what all he has learnt and all that. Then Padmapadacharya said that I have written a book also. So maternal uncle said, oh, let me see the book. And he kept it with him. Padmapadacharya wanted to go further ahead. So he said, okay, Mama, you please keep it with you. I'll go and come back. Then I'll take the book. He went off. And what the Mama did, he thought that such a book, if it gets to see the light of the day, the rituals will completely be gone from our country. So this book should be destroyed. So he set fire to a cottage, and when Padmapadacharya came, said that along with the cottage, the book has also got burnt off. Padmapadacharya, he became nearly mad. His composition, At that time he came to hear that Shankaracharya has come somewhere nearby, because Shankaracharya also was moving about for his Digvijaya, that is defeating all other schools of thought. So he went to the Guru and told that this has happened to my composition. And actually Shankaracharya himself has asked him to write that book. So, you know what Shankaracharya said? Don't worry, my dear son. You had read out to me 6 chapters of this book. I remember everything. Sit down, I will tell, you write out. So 6 chapters were told by Shankaracharya, and he wrote the book, and those 6 were enough. It came to the light. I have forgotten the name of the book. Anyway, so Papaugha Paridhuyatam. In this, you will understand how much subtly we may have, undesirable traits which will sometimes come up, distract our mind, and will not allow us to be calm and tranquil as we want to be. So we have to be very, very alert and watchful. There, no complacency is required. We have to be very harsh with ourselves. And for whom? For anybody, any seeker who want to tread this path and reach the goal. If one is not ready to do that, then that person need not strive. Then, next line is Bhavasukhe doshonusandhiyatam. So what we are doing? We are doing activity, we are worshipping, all the desireful activities we are shunning. We are constantly watchful that our mind is clean and pure, and we are not distracted by anything. Then what else will help us in our path? These points are what? To help us in our pursuit of self-realization, pursuit of contemplation on the self or Brahman and realizing it. So he says, Bhavasukhe doshonusandhiyatam. Finding that in this world, what happens to us? Why we are not able to pursue? Why is it that we have an yearning? We know that the self, if we can realize, we will have constant bliss with us. But why is it that in spite of having a desire for that, in spite of having sincerity for that, in spite of having yearning and liking for that, we are not able to pursue it with a wholesomeness, with a one-pointedness. We get scattered. We'll do for some time, we'll be very, very sincere. Then anything which comes in, any other activity, our mind goes to that. And after that, it takes us long time to come back to our life of spiritual pursuit. We find that we have lost the vigor. We find that we have lost the regularity. We find that we have lost the depth of thinking. Everything is lost. So, what is to be done for that? He says, Bhavasukhe doshonusandhiyatam. Grow dispassion for these worldly affairs, the worldly objects. As we grow love for the God, as we grow devotion for knowing the self, contemplating on the self, or realizing the self, the wholesomeness we must grow. Similarly, we must have dispassion for the world. That is, we should understand that this world is transitory. It's not going to give us permanent happiness at all. Whereas, if I pursue the self and can realize the self, I will have constant bliss and felicity. So when we understand that, suppose we know that we are walking on a path. We know at the end there is something. Suppose somebody doesn't have money or food, and we know that if we walk this path, at the end we will get food or money. So what will that man do? Will walk on that path, will not get distracted. But here we are getting distracted always. We know. So when we have the knowledge that in any other path, at the end, the food and money is not there, we will not walk on that path. Similarly here, we have to understand that the ordinary life that we lead is not going to give us any kind of happiness. Happiness comes, but always mixed with unhappiness. And there is old age where whatever you may have, you may not be able to enjoy it. So, constantly, intermittently, we have to understand that this world is transitory. So, when we understand that the world is transitory, we must feel that there is a supreme who should be the supreme in our lives. Money is not supreme. Power is not supreme. Prestige is not supreme. Good job is not supreme. But that our own real identity, the self that I am, the characteristics that I have, that is the supreme. And I must know what it is. Ayurnashyati pashyatam pratidinam yati kshayam yauvanam pratyayanti gatah punarna divasaha kalo jagadbhakshakaha Lakshmi stoya taranga bhanga chapala vidyuchalam jeevitam tasman mam sharanagatam sharanada tvam raksha rakshadhuna ayurnashyati pashyatam pratidinam. This also Shankaracharya has written. You know where he has written it? In the worship of Lord Shiva. It comes under devotional sutra. But here also he has said the same thing, that we have dispassion for the world. If you want to grow in spiritual life, you must develop wholesomeness and one-pointedness. How will it come? Unless your mind comes away from the petty matters of this world, your mind will not develop devotion to this pursuit. So it says, Ayur nashyati pashyatam. You must see that your life is very short. And every day it is going by. Day by day it is going. Morning the sun rises, evening the sun sets, and a day passes. Do we ever think what happens? By the end of the day we say, today is 20th, it is over. Tomorrow it will become 21st. When we get up in the morning of 21st, we say 20th is over. But with that, what has happened? Our ayu, our longevity has gone by one day. And we have become older by one day. We do not think about that. So, ayur nashyati pashyatam pratidinam. Every day it is going. Every day our ayu, our longevity is reducing. Yati kshayam yauvanam. And the youth is also simply getting decayed. And we are becoming older and older. Pratyayanti gata punarna divasaha. The day which has gone does not come back. Kalo jagad bhakshakaha. And time just eats up the life. Whatever has taken place, say even if we say one word, we cannot retrieve it. It has gone. Every moment just passes and it gets past. We are not able to have it back. So, kalo jagad bhakshakaha. Time just eats up this world. Lakshmi stoya taranga bhanga chapala. Lakshmi, suppose you have prosperity, you have wealth. It is just like the waves in a sea. How it breaks, Lakshmi is like that. Lakshmi is supposed to be the goddess of prosperity. Suppose you have lot of money, you are enjoying. Who knows what will happen? How many people, they have lost everything in the they lose everything, the earthquake, the typhoons, and what happened in Uttarakhand. Everything can be lost in a moment's time. Lakshmi stoya taranga bhanga chapala vidyuchalam jeevitam. It is like a lightning. The life is like a lightning. So he says, Tasman mam sharanagatam. The devotee, so Shankaracharya in this sloka, as a devotee, he is propitiating Lord Shiva and saying that, O Lord, so I have taken refuge at your feet and you please protect me. Tvam Raksha Rakshadhuna. Please protect me right now. So what is this protection? It is not that nothing will happen to us, no evil will befall us, or no bad luck will befall us. It is not like that. Protection means we must have discrimination. To understand that this life is not permanent, this life is transitory, anything may happen any day. So what we should have? We should have some treasures, something with us which will not allow us to crumble down at that time. That is what we must look for and we must acquire. In Gita also it says, Janma Mrityu Jara Vyadhi Dukkha Doshanudarshanam. Here, what is this sloka saying? Bhavasukhe Doshonusandhiyatam. Bhavasukha means that enjoyment that there is in the world, doshaha, that it is faulty. Anusandhiyatam. Every day, discriminate, introspect, and find out that whatever we are enjoying is not going to be permanent. Something will come. Suddenly there will be a disease. Suddenly there will be a bereavement. Suddenly the job will be lost. So many things can happen. But we must be immovable like this mountain. So where from that strength will come? From our own soul. So we have to pursue that. Gita says, Janma Mrityu Jara Vyadhi Dukkha Doshanudarshanam. That from Janma, Mrityu, Jara, Janma is birth, Mrityu is death, Jara is old age, Vyadhi is disease, Dukkha. Dukkha is unhappiness, sorrow, misery. Misery is had from all this. Even Janma. See, a child is born. I told you in the Vivek Chudamani class, I narrated how a couple, a child was born, very healthy child. And when a BCG injection was given, on the third day, blood did not flow to the brain, and the child is 22 years old, is absolutely invalid and retarded for all these 22 years. So the janma that gives, janma of a child, or the birth of a child, which gives so much of joy, maybe they had, burst crackers or given mithai to everybody, sweets to everybody. Did it remain? No. Immediately, or for all it does not happen, for it can happen. That is the thing. So that dukkha, the misery that comes from all these things, we must introspect and remind. Bhagavatam says that people are like this, pashyannapi na pashyati. It sees everything, but still they feel that it will not happen to me. It's happening to others. It will not happen to me. So, what should we do? Shankaracharya is saying, Atmecha Vyavasiyatam. He is telling the disciples that you should introspect and constantly see the fault of this world, that the world is transitory, it is not permanent, it's not going to give you permanent happiness at all. So what should you seek? You should seek the soul and Brahman, which will give you permanent happiness. Atmecha Vyavasiyatam. Not only seek with yearning, seek with sincerity, seek with dedication, seek with whole heart, and make it your own, that seeking. Never lose the goal. You may do any activity, but never lose the goal. Just like a mother, she has a child. She knows she has to look after the child, make food for the child. She has sent the child to the school. She will be doing 1,000 activities in the house, looking after guests, looking after in-laws, maybe going and getting vegetables from the market. Everything she will be doing. She will not forget the child. It is just like that, or even more. We never should lose our goal. And then what he says, Nija griha turnam vinirgamyatam. I think you don't know Sanskrit. That is why you know what it means. So he says, get away from your house. Get away from your house. So if you want to pursue this path, get away from your house. Nija grihat Turnam vinirgamyatam. As soon as possible, get out of your house. To whom is he saying this? To the renunciate disciples, those who have already left or is about to leave. So it doesn't actually relate to you. It's not that you all should leave your house and go. Maybe somebody may feel like doing it. But mostly we see that nobody is leaving. But it has relevance. It has relevance. What is the relevance? You must feel that you should also get out of the house, and wherever there is a satsang, go there. Like some of you have come. Making adjustments in the house, making adjustments with your work, traveling lot of distance. Some people have come from Delhi even. So what have you done actually? You have got out of your house. And in the house, what is the atmosphere? Always hearing. The husband will be hearing, and the wife will be hearing the husband. The children and parents will be talking. The parents are there, all will be talking. Some will be accusing others. There will be quarrels. There will be unnecessary talks. There will be lack of differences of opinion. So many things will be there. That is the atmosphere there. Sometimes there will be happiness also. But just as I was telling on the Vishnu Sahasranam, even in the ashram, so much of activity, so much of joy the previous day, so many people came, so many preparations were done. Vishnu Sahasranam was done the next day. Everything was done. But Vishnu Sahasranam day, the evening, very dull. Everybody has gone away. No, that festivity feeling was not there anymore. So even a festivity gets over. So in the house also, you are always in the midst of material things and material things. Very few houses are there where there will be discussion on the self or God to elevate the mind. So what you should do, you should also get out of the house whenever possible, go to a satsang group or go to a temple even, sit there and watch the devotees, how they come and do puja. Or make a group yourself, read a good book. This is what you should do. Since we are taking this shlokas for you, it is for you to relate it to yourselves. You understand? You can go to a lonely place and contemplate, do the meditation there, sit for some time, watch your thought processes. All these things one can do. When I was a student, I've grown up in Delhi. I did my studies also in Delhi. So I used to go to one Aurobindo Society. It was in Goldakhan. So I was doing PhD at that time. I'll get up in the evenings by about 3:30 or so. Those days buses were very scarce and it will leave me in the central secretariat. I had to walk long way to come to Goldakhan. But my mind will be looking for going there and sitting because there was a big, nice meditation hall. And at that time of the day, people were not there. Only one or two people would be there. They would be sometimes reading. Nobody generally used to be in the meditation hall. So I would go and I would sit for long hours. Later, when I was in Calcutta, sometimes I would go to, there was one Path Mandir. They had a very nice hall where library was there. That is also Sri Aurobindo's. And I would read the books, holy books. So morning I'll go and then read the books. And evening I'll come back. The days I had off in my college, at that time I was working. I was teaching in a college. So these things can be done. One should find out time for this. Even if you get half an hour, get out of your house, go to, or you have a separate place in your house if you can manage that. Go to one room, sit there. Maybe you hear some very good divine music or some chants and sit there alone. That is, get away from the company of others. Be in the company of your own soul. if you are not able to get a satsanga where like-minded people have gathered and where they are talking to each other, discussing about the self or soul. So it says this, Vedo nityam adhiyatam taduditam karmasvanushthiyatam teneshasya vidhiyatam apachiti kamye matistyajyatam papaugha paridhuyatam bhavasukhe doshonusandhiyatam atmecha vyavasiyatam nijagrihat turnam vinirgamyatam. The next sloka is what I just now said. So he is going step by step. He is saying nijagrihat turnam. Turnam means immediately. Vinirgamyatam. Go out of your house. Sangasatsu vidhiyatam bhagavato bhaktir dridhadhiyatam shantyadi parichiyatam dridhataram karmashu santyajyatam sadvidvanupasripyatam pratidinam tatpaduka sevyatam brahmaikaksharamardhyatam shrutishiro vakyam samakarnyatam sangasatsu vidhiyatam bhagavato bhaktir dridhadhiyatam shantyadi parichiyatam dridhataram karmashu santyajyatam sadvidvanupasripyatam pratidinam tatpaduka sevyatam brahmaikaksharamardhyatam shrutishiro vakyam samakarnatam. Next thing he says, Sangha Satsu Vidhiyatam. Do you understand? That association with the holy people, a wise and a self-realized person should be there. You must have. You must have the association. That is, in the first verse, he has told many things. But the thing is that, how will you constantly do introspection? How will you constantly think of the self or God? By yourself, it is very difficult. By oneself, it is very difficult to keep the mind elevated and think about God always, or at least most of the time. So, something is necessary which will help us. What is that? Sangha Satsu. That is the association of a holy, wise person who is also self-realized. What will that person do? Why this Sangha is necessary? Why this association is necessary? When we go to him, he will be constantly talking about the self or God, and we'll have the opportunity to hear about the absolute Brahman, the self or God, constantly, over and over again. So even if we forget, our one-pointedness becomes strengthened. Again we will remember. He will tell us the world is transitory. So you must grow dispassion. You must understand what this self is, what you are going to get, what is the ultimate purpose of life, and how to get it. He will be constantly giving us those instructions. So, Sangasatsu vidhiyatam bhagavato bhaktir dridhadhiyatam. Along with that, the worship that you have been doing, the devotion that you have, you strengthen it. Once we have devotion for God, we also become devoted to the Guru, because Guru is nothing but God. He is the one who comes as the manifestation of God. When God becomes pleased, Shankaracharya himself has written a sloka, which we chant every day in the ashram. It says that when by worshipping God, for many, many janmas, hundreds of janmas, worshipping in which manner? According to the Vedic injunctions. Vedic injunctions, whatever prescription has been given in the Vedas, and with bhakti, with lot of fondness when we worship God, then what happens? Santushta Isha Swayam. God himself becomes very pleased with the devotee. So, when he becomes pleased, he wants to do something for the devotee. Till now, he was an idol or image, and he was being worshipped. He was never talking to the disciple. The disciple, when he is happy, he will go and give some puja. If he is unhappy, then also he goes and cries. But God is not able to say anything in return. Why? Because it is an image, it is an idol. Now he thinks, time has come when I must do something for this devotee. So he sakshat Shri Guru Rupa Metya Kripaya. By his own grace and compassion, he takes the form of Guru. Driggocharasan Prabhu. He becomes revealed to the devotee in the form of Guru. So that is why we sing always that Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. The Guru is everything. He is God himself. So our devotion for God should be strengthened and strengthened. Only when that devotion gets strengthened, our devotion for Guru, who is going to give us the knowledge. God is not able to give us knowledge because he doesn't talk. Guru will talk to us and give us the knowledge. He will tell us what is there in these Vedas and Upanishads and what is this realization, what is Brahman. So, when he comes in front of a devotee in the form of a Guru, he gives him the Tattva, Atma Tattva, and makes him self-realized so that he then crosses this worldly ocean which is full of misery and suffering. Now, to have this bhakti, the mind should be very calm. Bhakti will get distracted, will not have it in a wholesome manner. Why? Whenever there is agitation in the mind, we will not be able to completely comprehend what is bhakti. Suppose there is a vessel of water very clean, I can see myself, my own reflection. But if the water is given a little movement and some dust is thrown into it, it will not be clear again. We won't be able to see our face. Similarly, when the mind is having agitations and desires which rise from agitation which rise from desire, the mind will not be able to understand the instructions the Guru is giving. It will not be receptive. So, next line he says, Shantyadi parichiyatam dridhataram. So he says, make the mind calm and tranquil. For that, whatever is necessary. See, we have to understand all these are related. No instruction is a single instruction. Every instruction is related to each other. So, we must understand that when the mind has to be made calm and tranquil, desires have to be left. We have to see that our activities are not desireful. So, where from these desires are coming? We have to be very, very introspective. What are these desires? Do I really need to fulfill them? Or can I also dispose them off? Just like that. Many of the things we do not need, but we still go behind it because it becomes a habit to look for more and more. So the introspection comes in here. Also, what comes in? If we have to develop this quality, we have to have dispassion towards the world. So all these are interwoven. When love for God, love for self increases, naturally love for the world will recede. You will find yourself that if you have dedication and commitment and sincerity, many of the things which you liked earlier, you will not like anymore. Now, many people say that after we have started coming to satsang or reading good books, many of the social activities, going to parties, going to marriages, we don't like anymore. Going out for food, all these things we don't like anymore. So this is the change that comes about. Sadvidvan upasripyatam pratidinam tatpaduka sevyatam. Sadvidvan upasripyatam. One who has realized the self, approach him with humility. Very, very important. For this path, this is one thing that is in the front of everything. Humility. We must have humility. We must go to a guru. And when we go to guru, we should fall at his feet with humility. See, Shankaracharya himself says that if you want mukti, then you try to introspect, and whatever your desires are for material objects, whatever your desires are for this objective world, you try to be dispassionate towards them. And ultimately what you should do? Santam mahantam samupeta deshikam tenopadishtartha samahitatma. You look for a guru, go to him and fall at his feet, and tenopadishtartha, whatever upadesha he gives, understand it well and then meditate upon that. And who is a guru? Shankaracharya has written beautiful shlokas. Shrotriyo vrijino akamahato yo brahmavittamaha brahmanyuparata shanto nirindhana ivanalaha ahetukadaya sindhu bandhuranamatam satam. He says, Shrotriyo abrijino akamahato. He must be a Shrotriyaha. That is, he knows the Shruti, the Upanishads and the Vedic texts. Not only he knows, he lives them. He becomes that. He completely identifies with the knowledge that is there in our scriptures. So, Shrotriyo Avrijino, he is sinless. He is absolutely sinless. That is, he has no desire. Akamahataha, because he becomes sinless. How? Because he is not smitten by any desire. What he does is always for everybody else, not personal gains. Akamahato yo brahmavittamaha. And those who know the Brahman, Brahmavit, those who know, amongst them, he is a Shrestha. Brahmanyuparata shanto. His uparati means when from the worldly distractions we gather our mind and put it on self. That is uparati. So Brahmani uparataha. His mind is always on Brahman. That is why what he becomes? Shanta. See, here also I just now explained. Shantadi parichiyatam. If you want calmness and tranquility, you must contemplate on self or Brahman, so that there is no agitation in the mind. Brahmanyuparata shanto nirindhana ivanalaha. This is from Vivekachudamani. In the beginning it is there. You can go and read it in the house. Beautiful. So, he has become Shanta. What kind of Shanta? Shanta means quiet, tranquil. What kind? Nirindhana ivanalaha. When a fire is blazing, if that fire dies down, how cold it becomes. There is no warmth in it, no heat in it. And it will not come again. It has become quietened like that fire, which has got put off. Ahetukadaya sindhu bandhuranamatam satam. And he is Bandhu, he is a friend of whoever comes and falls at his feet. And he becomes a friend not because of any motive. Ahetuka daya sindhu. Ahetuka means what? Without motive. He becomes an ocean of mercy. This is how the Guru is. So, to that Guru we must go. We must find out somebody who can teach us, can tell us about God, about self, about Brahman, and impart that knowledge to us. Why? Because we have understood only in doing so, only in realizing ourselves, our own identity, we can go beyond joys and sorrows. We can become absolutely blissful, always, constantly. So, sadvidvanupasripyatam pratidinam tatpaduka sevyatam. So, tatpaduka sevyatam pratidinam. And when we go, what we should do? We should worship him. Worship his holy feet, worship his sandal. If he is not there, keep a sandal and worship him. This worshipping, I'll tell you again and again, it is not a mechanical ritual. Through any kind of worship, if you even keep a stone, if you worship it with your whole heart, wanting to become one with that object of worship, you will find the purity that dawns in the heart. With little bit of act, just sitting near it, just contemplating, you will find your mind has expanded like anything. You will feel like loving everybody. You will see the deity everywhere. You will see your Ishta everywhere. And that will give you that constant bliss which is being told about. So, worship the sandals daily. That in that daily affair, it is something which is very, very auspicious. We should not miss it. We should not miss doing these things. As we always take bath, even if one doesn't take bath when one is sick, one definitely takes food and definitely goes to sleep. These two, everybody has to do. Similarly, this kind of worship also, everybody must do every day. Make a routine of yourself. Make a routine that at this time I'll do this time I'll do this, so that your mind will not get distracted. And you will find that you have got enough time to do all these things. You will find that you are having a lot of fondness in doing this. So worship the sandals daily, worship the holy feet if he is there in his own body. And have humility and devotion to the Master. Become more and more receptive to the knowledge which he imparts. So the mind should be fully receptive to understand what he is giving. And one should be very, very, full of gratitude that one has been led to such a person. One is fortunate that such words are falling into the ears and that one has got the opportunity to sit at the feet of the Master and listen. And then try to imbibe. Sampurnam jagadevanandanavanam sarvepi kalpadrumaha gangam vari samasta vari nivaha punyas samastah kriyaha Vacha prakrita samskrita shruti siro Varanasi medini Sarvavasthitirasya vastu vishaya Drishte parabrahmani